Hola amigos, ¿cómo están? Hi friends, how are you doing? And welcome back to the Nuevo Spanish podcast. I'm Elaine and I'm here to help you learn Spanish with a purpose. Now in this episode, we are talking about ministry Spanish and we are going to deal with the two verbs that could be really tricky for a native English speaker. These are the verbs saber and conocer. So we're going to dig into these two verbs and what their similarities and what their differences are. Now, don't leave once we finish our Spanish grammar section of this podcast. I'm going to give you tools at the end of the podcast that will teach you to learn a language in just 6 months. These are proven steps that we've used for years here at Nuevo Spanish, and you may have seen a lot of these steps in Chris Lonsdale's TED Talk about how to learn a language in 6 months, so you don't want to miss this. Okay, let's get into saber and conocer. Repeat after me. Saber. Conocer. These two verbs both mean in English to know. Now, just like ser and estar both mean to be, you could tell where we're going with this. It could be a little tricky. Ser and estar both mean to be, but in different circumstances in Spanish. It's the same way with saber and conocer. In English, we have one word. In Spanish, they have two. So here are the differences. I'm going to teach you first how to conjugate saber, and then we're going to talk about when you would use it. Okay, saber means to know. The yo form of saber, repeat after me, is sé. Sé. Now, sé is irregular in the yo form, so you just memorize it. You don't conjugate it regularly. Now, in the tu form, all the rest of the forms are conjugated regularly for saber. The yo form is irregular. Sé. Tú sabes. Él, ella, usted sabe. Nosotros sabemos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes saben. So if you'd like, feel free to go back, rewind, and practice that verb conjugation again. But let's talk about what saber means versus conocer. Saber means to know facts or information in Spanish. So for example, if you're asking someone, do you know where the church is? ¿Sabes dónde está la iglesia? ¿Sabes dónde está la iglesia? Do you know where the church is? That is a piece of information, so we would use saber. What about, do you know how many people are coming to the party? ¿Sabes cuántas personas vienen a la fiesta? These are facts or information. So I want you to remember and translate saber in your mind to the phrase to know in English. Okay, don't let that confuse you. Let's move on to conocer. Conocer means more like to be familiar with, to meet someone for the first time, or to have been to a place. Let's go over that again. To be familiar with something, to meet someone for the first time, or to have been someplace before. So what we're saying is, do you know Maria? Or let's translate that into, have you met Maria? Do you know Southern Italy? Have you been to Southern Italy? That would use conocer. Or are you very familiar with the culture of Spain? So even though all of these mean to know in English, let's use saber to say to know facts and information. Conocer is I've met Maria. I have been to Mexico. I'm familiar with the country of Greece. Okay, so let's conjugate conocer. Just like saber, conocer is irregular in the yo form. Let's conjugate conocer. And what I'd like you to do, we haven't talked about this tactic yet, but I would like you to visualize knowing or meeting someone in your mind as you conjugate this verb. Put a picture in your mind with the word you're using, because it is proven that you are more likely, instead of memorizing the look or the sound of a word, if you use it and visualize it in your mind's eye, you are more likely to remember it and recall it later on in a conversation. So now let's conjugate conocer. Remember, the yo form is irregular. Repeat after me. Conozco. Conozco. Conozco means I know. Now, conocer is conjugated regularly all the way down, just like saber. It's irregular in the yo form, and the other forms are regular. Tú conoces. Él, ella, usted conoce. Nosotros conocemos. Ellos, ellas, ustedes conocen. So if I want to say, I've never been to Puerto Rico, I would say, no conozco Puerto Rico. All right, now when you're using conocer to have met someone or saying, I know David, I know Erica, we have to use what's called the personal a. That's the letter A in English. It's the Spanish a. You have to use what's called the personal a in Spanish when you talk about knowing a person. The personal a will go through an entire episode on the personal a later on. But right now with Saber and Conocer, the only thing you need to know is that conocer uses the personal a after the verb before the person's name when it means to know someone or to meet them for the first time. Okay? When you're talking about knowing a person, you have to use the personal a after the verb conocer. So just kind of memorize that rule right now and you'll understand more the personal a later on in another podcast. So let's put conocer into practice. Let's use it in a couple forms in the same conversation. So I'm going to ask you, do you know Mateo? And then you're going to answer, yes, I know Mateo. Remember to use the personal a, and you'll understand a little how it works according to my question. See if you can mirror it in your response. Okay, ready? Vamos. ¿Conoces a Mateo? So your response would be, sí, conozco a Mateo. Remember, the yo form is irregular. Conozco. Good. I'm going to do another one. So I'm going to ask you if you know Jennifer. And then you're going to say, no, I don't know Jennifer. Okay, vamos. Hola, amigo. ¿Conoces a Jennifer? So your response should have been, no conozco a Jennifer. Or you could say, no conozco a Jennifer. Muy bien. So we always use the personal a when using conocer and a person. All right, let's use conocer in a couple different forms, and let's use it about a country. So I'm going to ask if David and Sandra have been to Argentina. And then you're going to respond, yes, they've been to Argentina. Hola, amigo, ¿cómo estás? David y Sandra conocen Argentina? So your response would be, sí, David y Sandra conocen Argentina. Or you could just say, sí, conocen Argentina. Yes, they've been to Argentina. So now let's use saber and conocer and just use them in a couple sentences. One important phrase you need to learn is no sé. No sé. I don't know. That's an extremely important phrase to learn in Spanish. No sé. So let's do some practice. I'm going to say a phrase twice. After the first time, repeat it. After the second time, try to translate it. Vamos. Mi pastor conoce muy bien la historia del Antiguo Testamento. Mi pastor conoce muy bien la historia del Antiguo Testamento. My pastor is very familiar with or knows very well Old Testament history. ¿Sabes cuántos libros hay en la Biblia? ¿Sabes cuántos libros hay en la Biblia? Do you know how many books there are in the Bible? This is facts or information. ¿Conoces a Jesús? ¿Conoces a Jesús? Do you know Jesus? Mis padres conocen mucho de Centroamérica. Mis padres conocen mucho de Centroamérica. My parents have been to a lot of Central America. ¿Sabes dónde está la farmacia? ¿Sabes dónde está la farmacia? Do you know where the pharmacy is? No, no sé. No, no sé. No, I don't know. No sabemos a qué hora sale el vuelo. No sabemos a qué hora sale el vuelo. We don't know what time the flight is leaving. Okay, amigos, how was it? Let us know how you're doing. Get on Facebook, like and share our page, and comment and let us know how much you like the podcast or what you would like to see, what kind of subjects you'd like to see on the podcast. Now, I told you that at the end of the podcast, we'd be talking about ways to learn a language. I'm going to do an entire podcast just on best practices. And if you're on our online course, I've given you best practices in the past, and we're going to get more in depth in the future as well. But here are a few tips to take with you today. It's extremely important that we understand there is no one source for learning a language. Do not rely solely on Nuevo Spanish. You didn't learn your native language just by hearing one person speak or by reading just one book or watching just one movie. It's absolutely essential for you to get as much exposure as possible. Let's talk about the phenomenon that happens when we buy a car or we have decided we want this certain car and we're looking at it on the internet, or we've just bought a new car and all of a sudden you see that car everywhere you go. It doesn't matter if you had never seen the car before. As soon as you buy it or as soon as you decide I'm going to go buy this car, this is the one I want, all of a sudden every grocery store has 10 of them in the parking lot. Every time you go to take the kids to school, you pass by 3 of them, and it's only a quarter mile from your house to the school. It's amazing. It's an amazing phenomenon. The same thing happens when you start to learn a language and you really start looking for it. You're paying attention to your surroundings. Usually in life, we have these filters on us. We know where we're going. We know what we are listening to, what we are listening for, and what we want to listen to, and we filter out what we do not intend to discover in life. Did you know that our noses, our human noses, naturally have a stronger sense of smell than that of a dog? Now, it seems incredible to hear, but we really do. We have just trained ourselves not to use those because we have certain desires, other senses that we are more focused on, and we frankly try to block out smells. We don't like to smell a bunch of nasty things. We want to block out as much as possible. So therefore, we have not used that muscle, that sense. The same thing happens in language learning. I know that immersion is good. It's amazing for language learning. But how many people do you know that have lived in the United States for 10, 20 years and still speak no English whatsoever? I had a college professor. It was my first college class. It was an English 101 class. And I walked in and I had to drop the class immediately because the professor's English was so bad. I said, I will fail this class because I can't understand a word this professor is saying. Now, they could probably write a book. And of course, they have their degree. They're teaching a college course. Of course, they have talent elsewhere. But their speaking abilities were so poor because they're just blocking out the sounds that they need to hear to become a great English speaker. They're focused on whatever they're focused on and are not focused on these different areas that are necessary for language acquisition. So let me tell you, if you will implement this one tactic today, you will triple the amount of Spanish you learn in a day. I'm telling you. Here's the tactic. Look for Spanish around you. Look for ways you could use your Spanish all day long, every day. Because frankly, that's how you learned English, is by using it all day long, every day, by listening for it. Try to eavesdrop, not to be rude or not to be weird, but if you're in line and you hear someone speaking Spanish, then you don't have to look at them, but perk your ears up. See if you can catch the conversation. You will be amazed at how much you already understand and the practice that you can get. Now, Not just listening to conversations of other people in Spanish while you're shopping. If you're, again, at Walmart, at the grocery store, look up at the aisles. If you see that it's aisle 17, then say in your head or out loud, okay, 17, because you know how to say 17. If you see a food item that you already know, then you could say leche, milk, whatever it is, cereal, and go down that aisle. Practice it throughout the day. Then, while you're at the grocery store, pick up the boxes, and I guarantee you, on some box of brownies, on some box of cereal, on some hairspray bottle or shampoo bottle, you are going to find English and Spanish instructions. It happens all the time. And if you could look at the English side and say, okay, well, I know how grammar essentially works in Spanish. Even if you don't, you can figure it out. You can learn 10 new words just while you're taking a shower. If you just look on the back of your shampoo bottle, on the back of your body wash bottle, while you are taking a shower, you can learn 10 words just in your morning routine and then implement them throughout the day. Find a way to be able to imprint it in your mind that you'll remember, okay, I was reading that word as water was running down my hands and I was washing my hair. So I'm never going to forget the word lavar, to wash. 2 places that I will tell you automatically have everything in English and Spanish in bright, big, beautiful letters all over the stores are your friendly hardware stores. I'm just going to say the home stores, okay? There are 2 of them that are massive big box stores. I mean, just if you have 15 minutes to drop by, that will be at 15 minutes well spent if you will drop in and pay attention. It's just like when you buy a new car, you all of a sudden see it everywhere around you. If you are opening up your senses, opening up your nose, your eyes, your mouth, your ears to Spanish around you, I'm telling you, it's everywhere around you. When you're in the United States, you can almost be in a half Spanish speaking country, and it is an amazing opportunity. But don't be the person who's lived in the United States for 20 years and doesn't speak English because they have closed off, they filtered out that sound that they don't want to hear. They have told themselves they don't want to understand it, so I'm blocking it out. Don't block out the world around you. You will learn so much, and it will be effortless. You won't even feel like studying. It will be entirely enjoyable, pleasurable, and you will be amazed at the people you could reach with the gospel by just being interested in their lives. Okay, I'm so glad you were here on this episode of Nuevo Spanish, and I can't wait for the next podcast. You guys are amazing. Hit us up on social media. Tell us what you want to hear, and we'll be here for you. It's Nuevo Spanish, Spanish with a purpose. Hasta luego.